looks like we got all of those lighting points. Okay. I'm dumb. I made a big whoops. Okay. So just double checking. Okay, we are live both places. And now. How high am I? Okay. I have soup. If there isn't any hype for soup in this chat, then I don't know what I can create hype for. So, I'm going to hang out here for a little bit. Let's see, can I do this and have it show up and not be what's streamed? Cool. I can. Neat. I believe I said in the tweet that I would be ready at like 2:45, something like that. 2:45 Central Time, that is. Just double checking to make sure that was what I said. Yeah. So I'm a little bit early, but figured I'd pop in here and hang out in the meantime. It's always nice to start the stream just a little bit early so that people have a chance to actually show up before I'm like saying things that they want to hear. Thank you, Devi. Thank you for the welcome back. So I'm going to hang out here and wait for people to be able to pop in before I get started. And in the meantime, I'm going to eat soup and I'm going to talk to people. Finally able to watch a stream. Never able to normally watch a stream live. Yeah, I definitely want to get some more streams out there because I recognize that that's probably the case for a lot of people, that they want to be able to watch, but they, maybe they're at work or school or something on a Tuesday afternoon, So I'm trying to like find, little excuses here and there to get a stream live on a weekend and maybe get a chance to, answer some questions or something for some people who normally aren't able to make it. Are those numbers your friend code? Yeah, I think it might be that we ended up putting a timer to those because I don't know why it's posting my friend code repeatedly without being prompted. So I might want to go into the chat settings here and figure out why that's going on. Bot does not have any options at all, so that's not super helpful, is it? Oh yeah, they're on a repeat command. I don't need that repeat command. Do not repeat with timer. Do not repeat that with timer either. There we go. Okay, I think I fixed it. So those numbers are my friend code. That's not going to be useful at all to you for this stream, at least, because I will be just doing a VOD review on somebody else's gameplay. I don't even have my Switch turned on right now. That is the number of hours that I'm at the moment on that profile anyway. That actually doesn't count the number of hours that I have on the secondary profile that I used for the How to Get Out of Ranked videos. So real number is a few hundred more than that. But yeah, I've been playing this game a while. So cool. But yeah, that's me. Hope y'all have been having a good Sunday. Hope y'all have been getting some rest. Anything with PBs and stuff. Yeah, for sure. I have so many friend requests now, though. Like, it's frustrating that your friend list has such a small cap. Like, as a streamer and the captain of a competitive team, you end up with so many friend requests that you have to delete people to be able to make room. And like a lot of the time it's like, oh yeah, that's that one guy that I played a tournament with back in October of 2021, right? Like you've never played with that person again, but they're still on your friends list, and you have to go and like find them and remember, wait, is this a person that I can delete? It also sucks when like somebody that you do know changes their tag or something to something silly, and so you're looking and you're like, huh, who's that? Who's tries to come up with a goofy name that's not also inappropriate, you know? You're like, I don't know who that is, and so you get rid of them, and then your teammate comes like, hey, why'd you delete me? So silly. But yeah, you know, when PBs come around, I'll go and make sure to accept as many of those as I can. Suffering from success. Too many friends. Okay, look, it's not like that. This is like IRL friendship. Like, I'm not collecting Facebook friends or whatever. Like, even Facebook friendship doesn't matter, but it is way more meaningful than having a Switch friend, okay? A to S plus, awesome. Thank you. I always feel good hearing that somebody has legitimately benefited from those videos, Domini. Appreciate you coming back to say so. That's always nice to hear. Look, if it's not Facebook official, are you really friends? No, that was maybe the case back when I was in like middle school, but yeah, no. What do you mean again, Silver Shadow? That there was no first stream. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I made it dumb. Is 2103 a bad power for your first time doing placements? I've been kind of insecure about it. Okay, so first of all, I have a video on that particular use of the word bad. I know that sounds extremely specific, but you've got to have goals that are more objective than good or bad. If you just say, is this good? I'm like, I don't know. What standard do you hold yourself to? What are your goals? Are you aiming to be at a certain place at a certain time? I have no, metric for that. Now, I will say what does tend to happen to a lot of players is that early on, they will oscillate. They'll go back and forth between S plus 9 and X a few times. Because they'll, get beaten by X rank players, but then they'll go back to S plus and have a bit of an edge. And over time, you start to look and compare the S plus players and the X rank players and go, okay, this is what the X rank players are doing that the S plus players are not. And that's why I'm having trouble. And then you start adapting to that, and you start getting better, and you start staying in X. So, what is the point of me saying that that's a bad power, right? Like, no, you should feel ashamed of 2103 X power. Like, I don't know. I do VOD reviews for people who are not X rank all the time. So if I were to say that you're bad, like, what am I saying about them, right? No. So I don't think it's a useful question to ask, is this bad? I'd say think more carefully about what your goals are and try to consider, like, what settings, you should put for yourself, what mark you want to hit. Maybe try and like look around and compare yourself to other players and be like, which players do I want to be able to compete with? So that's how I think about it. Sub power up C-Jet? Sub power up C-Jet? Oh yeah, Ice does have the sub power up C-Jet. I guess for sniping people that they've raided and they want to finish off or something. It's interesting. I didn't notice that the first time through. I feel ashamed of B rank. Don't. Yeah. B rank is like, between the 40th and 70th percentile, I think. Like, there are B rank players who are above average. Okay, B rank is like bronze in League of Legends. B rank is where like a lot of players end up. There's no shame in it whatsoever. Sorry for asking. No. Don't apologize to me for asking. I'm not offended. The reason I say don't ask that question is that it is going to negatively impact your mindset. You're not going to be thinking in a way that helps you improve if that's the way that you're thinking about your progress. I will say, I think sub power up on burst bomb weapons is busted. Being able to very quickly just tack burst damage on to someone from that much of a distance, kind of insane. I always, every time I run, I don't run a lot of these weapons, but if I run Tri-Slosher or if I run Neo Splash, I always have a main of it. I don't care what the builds are saying on Sendu.inc. I just get way too much utility out of being able to snipe someone with that. I did this when I was running vanilla Splat Dualies too. I think that a little bit of sub power up on a burst bomb weapon goes a long way. Yeah, I would believe that number, Hylaster GG. The numbers that I'm quoting come from information that was released in like 2018 before X Rank actually came out. So there's a good argument to be made that people have probably, more people have probably gotten into X Rank in that time. But there's also I still think that people are underestimating how quickly people are buying this game. Like, I still see streams pop up all the time on Twitch, even being, 5 months before Splatoon 3 comes out, of people who are like, yeah, I just got this game a week ago. I just got this game a month ago, Maybe they're getting excited about Splatoon 3 and wanted to try the second game first. I don't know. But there are a lot of new players that are still funneling into the ecosystem, which is really, really cool. Any way to get out of the loop of reaching okay, and then losing and getting back to the start of the rank? Doing that over and over again, or do I just keep playing? So Candy, I like that question. I want to reframe it a little bit for you. Because you're looking at the results. You're looking at, like, how do I get the bar to stop doing this? And really, the answer to that is to become a stronger player, to learn. And so if you're sitting at about the same place, maybe try to seek out more information, maybe try to seek out more feedback on your play, maybe think about your gameplay more critically. There has to be a step if you've been there for a while and you're just looping it and you feel like you're still not getting anywhere. Something's got to change in the way you approach the game. Something's got to change in the way that you think about the game. I'm sure that there are still mechanical things that you could probably be working on, because there are still mechanical things that I could be working on, and I'm X rank. But that comes with time. My thing about, aim and movement and stuff like that is, like, you're never not practicing that. Like, sure, I definitely recommend doing some aim drills and prepping for that sort of thing. And being a little bit more proactive about getting better at that than you would be by just playing games. But you are always getting better at that to some extent. But if you're still getting the same sorts of results, maybe something to think about is, like, I'm not thinking about the game in the same way that a top player is. And I'm probably going to have some of those kinds of learning experiences watching these matches that we're about to watch today, because these players are all better than me. Every single one of them. Just the difference between them and me is something like the difference between me and, like, a mid to low level S+ player. It's thousands and thousands of hours of play. these players are the very best in the world. Like when it says Splat World Championship, it has more of a claim to that than I think the Nintendo World Championships do, because of the way that the Nintendo World Championships are region locked. I think these teams are built more organically, and they are more selective of the very best teams in the world. So this is going to be good to watch, but I've kind of been wanting to finish my soup first. And I've been talking a little bit too much for that to happen. So I'm a little bit torn. One match away from A rank. It was a 3v3. Your team lost. I was taken back to OK and B+. Don't worry about it, Octophones. Literally the only... Think about it like you're a Dark Souls character, right? The only way that you lose at Dark Souls is if you give up, because you eventually get good enough at Dark Souls that you can just beat the whole thing from level 1 without ever leveling up and just, like, roll through everything. Right? Like, the only way that you ever manage to not succeed at something is not putting in the full amount of time and effort that you need to learn and get better so that you can do it. Now, the thing that I will say is that there are some pursuits where the amount of time and effort that it will take you to reach that goal might not be worth it to you. And it is okay for that to be the case. You are not obligated to be the best Splatoon player in the world. You know, have a life, maybe, you know? So speak to someone who, like, lives outside of your home. That might be, you know, valuable as well, so... Yeah, James, hours don't mean everything. It's all a matter of what you do with those hours. It's all a matter of whether you are doing that hard thinking that is important for improving. Just grinding games, not always going to get you there. There's a player in the Melee community who's got at least 10,000 hours right now. And they're like maybe top 100, 150 or something like that, but they're not the best player in the world, even though they are putting in probably twice the hours of the best player in the world. The quality of practice matters. It's not just the quantity of practice. You do need a pretty high quantity of practice to be the best in the world. Like, the players we're going to be watching today are probably playing something like 6 to 8 hours a day, but they're doing smart practice. They're playing against strong players who are going to punish them for doing the wrong thing, and that are going to force them to think about the game differently and look for adaptations they can make. And their teammates are going to hold them to that too. Looking for advice for improving gameplay. What type of questions should I be asking so that it isn't too vague? That is a really good question. I think... A lot of the time you don't know what to ask, and that's something of a plateau for people. That's when you go for VOD reviews from, like I actually just submitted today a video for a VOD review with FLC, who's one of the top analysts in the game, because he was posting on Twitter that he was going to be doing VOD reviews for mid-level competitive players. I'm like, ooh, that's me. So I just did that today to see if there's something that I need to be working on besides what I currently have set as my goals. But look for feedback about what you could be doing better, or try and figure out things that you could be doing better by watching better players, and then set those things as goals. So, for example, one of my goals is a top player, when they start missing shots, they disengage immediately and swim somewhere. And sometimes I'll do that. Other times I will just stand there and keep trying to get my aim on, and that gets me shot a lot of the time that I don't have to be shot. Another one of my goals is, when I'm communicating what my play is going to be, I need to communicate that far enough in advance that my teammates can help me with it. So I've got that for callouts. So I've got those goals, and then I try to evaluate on a regular basis, is that goal something that I still need to work on? Is that goal something that it is helping me to be working towards? Is there another goal that I should be adding? and I just kind of keep that list going. And when I do VOD reviews and things like that, I will often refer to those goals. I will like ask the coach, here's what I'm currently working on. Can you give me advice on these specific things? Or can you suggest other goals I should be working toward? Q&A and soup tasting, yes. Okay. Catching up. Hello, Splash. Why do so many competitive teams have a quad X rank requirement? I have 2 X ranks so far and want to start team finding now, but you won't have luck since everyone wants quad X players. Not everyone wants quad X players. I do see a significant number of teams that are saying like S plus or higher. I've even seen A rank or higher, or even B rank or higher. They're out there. There are just fewer of them, and the people that you're going to be seeing there are probably a little bit less serious. What you will find, I think, is that being, hitting quad X rank and having the determination to do something that hard is a big litmus test of how serious the player is going to be, how committed they're going to be to the team. Like, if they're willing to grind the games to get quad X to hit that requirement, that definitely says something about them, not just as a player, but like as a person, as a teammate. So I think that's one reason that you see that a lot. But I will also say you can definitely hit quad X rank. Like, it's something that you can go for and you can get. In the meantime, look for teams that do meet whose requirements you do meet. Play as many scrims as you possibly can, get as much competitive experience as you can, so that when you do hit that X rank level and all those teams do open up to you, you're in a good spot. Also, just between you and me, if you showed up to a tryout and one of your ranks was S plus 9, I don't think they'd actually worry that much about it if you played well with them. That's just secret information from one team captain to a random member of the community, and to nobody else. Everyone else who heard that, just forget that I said that. Okay. Or I need to start communicating play calls in advance too. Yes, play calling it's a whole other can of worms. There's an argument that I heard recently that's shot calling holds you back mechanically as an individual player, which is interesting. It's something that I hadn't thought of before. I think it was the Negus corner, where Negus was talking about it with, I think, Kyo and Dr. Prodigy. So that was an interesting topic where it does tend to be that the players who focus the most on shot calling are also the mechanically weakest, because they're focusing on two different things. They're not just focusing entirely on their mechanics, they're also focusing on making good callouts and directing the team in the right way. And you do need both. You do need the mechanics and the shot calls, but specializing in one area or the other does tend to detract from the opposite. So forget what? I didn't hear anything? Good. Yes, good. Mm-hmm. That ranked point, people getting too ahead of themselves. I do think there is value in having very ambitious goals, because a lot of the teams that I see rise through the ranks quickly, they do have very ambitious goals. I've seen a Div 7 team, a team that was ranked Div 7, say that they had a goal to be Div 4 by the next season. And like, they went and they earned it. I think they actually hit Div 3. They knew that they had the potential, they had the work ethic, that they were learning fast enough that they could go and do that, and they went for it. That's a huge jump. That's a bigger jump than I made from the beginning of my competitive career to where I currently am. But, if you know that you're all in on it, then sometimes you can just say, yeah, this is what I want to do, and you can go for it. But I think what's really important is being realistic about your goals, knowing what it's going to take to achieve those goals. Because if you set yourself a goal and you don't know how to achieve it, then that's when you're going to start running into issues where you feel frustrated because you feel like you're hitting a brick wall. So keep your goals manageable. Keep your goals in a place where you're like, okay, I know if I devote this much time to it, I'm going to be able to get there. And then I'm going to be able to set a new goal, and I'm going to be able to work from there. I think that's the healthiest way to do it. Mm-hmm. I would say I'm much more on the communication angle of things than I am on the mechanics side. I say a lot on the mic, and to what extent that's useful is up for debate. But I focus a lot more on communication and trying to keep team coordination. Whereas on the other extreme, Cookie, former teammate of mine on the Grillers, Cookie is often completely silent in the voice call during even tournament matches. But that enables him to play at a higher mechanical level, and so to some extent that's worth it to him. So there are you kind of want a good mix. You want mostly players who are going to follow calls, but one or two players who are going to make calls as well, for everybody to follow. That seems to be a good mix. Because otherwise you have so many people talking that you're talking over each other, or otherwise you have no leadership, no direction, and everyone's just kind of playing solo queue. Here's a scenario I'm trying out for a team, and the type of tryouts they're doing is a scrim. What are some things to keep in mind so I can be a good team player? So being a good team player, because that's not going to be particular to doing a scrim. Like, it's going to be the same in tournament, it's going to be the same other places. But to be a good team player, one of the important things is to try and maintain morale. I remember there was a teammate that I've had in the past. I'm not going to name them or tell when this was or anything, but there's a teammate that I had in the past where in their tryout they were very positive. They were affirming everybody. They were keeping everybody pumped, and we had energy. Not so much energy that we were missing things, but like it was a really positive experience. And then after that tryout, a switch flipped, and all of a sudden they were getting mad at things like RNG, at things like lag, at things that usually aren't actually there, or if they aren't something you should be focusing on. Like, they were getting really upset, and when we would play like league pairs, they would get mad at their other teammates, and it would put the question in your head like, wait, do they feel mad like this about me? And they're just not saying it because I'm in the call with them? Like, that sort of negative energy is something that will really kind of ruin a tournament for your entire team. If your team gets put on tilt in a tournament setting, you're probably not going to win after that. So morale is a big deal. But otherwise, try to focus on playing the game. Play the game the very best you can. Don't distract yourself like, oh, this is a tryout, I wonder if I make it. Because if you're thinking about that, you're not thinking about Splatoon. And you need to be thinking about Splatoon to play Splatoon well. All right, we're in the final stretch here, folks. I'm going to drink the rest of the soup because I know it's been like 20 minutes or something and we still haven't started the VOD review yet. I do live stream, Whale Lord. I do a stream every Tuesday from 3 to 5 Pacific time, but this is a random weekend stream because this really cool event happened, and I wanted to show everybody that because they probably not probably everybody saw it. That was really badly worded, but you know what I mean. Out of all the Splatoon 3 specials we've seen, what's your favorite? The new Ink Strike looks a lot of fun. That looks like it's going to be the new missiles of that game. But it's more interactive missiles. It's more strategic missiles. Yeah, numbers, I think, is what we were calling you. That is something that can happen. You know, overestimating your ability and letting your ego push you to a place where you're not really functionally learning anymore. You're feeling like you should be getting better and that other things are holding you back. Frustration, that sense that something is holding me back that I don't have control over, is something to be very careful of, because you have to question, is this actually something I don't have control over? Is this something I can improve? Yes, I was on the Grillers. I was one of the founding members, and I was there for about 3 years. Play NZAP 85. I'm trying to improve. Any tips? There are too many things that I could say about the NZAP 85. Basically, it's a paint support weapon. When you do pop armor, be ready to go in with the rest of your team and fight with them. But keep yourself alive, because you're very important. The amount of paint you can put out is very important. The bomb spam you can put out is really, really important for shutting down objective pushes. Keep yourself alive until you get a good fight, but then your weapon is absolutely capable of going in and have the mechanics to go in with it. On competitive killer whale use, I have no idea how good that special is going to be. It looks very unfinished in the state that it was in. Some of the targeting looks really wonky, and like the hitboxes, there are multiple times in that trailer where it bisects a player, goes straight through them. There's no way that it missed, and they take no damage. So I have no idea what's going to happen there. I don't know how much damage it does. Positionally, it could be good. It could be absolutely awful. We have to see. Tetras will be OP with good kits. If they have good kits, yes. Those weapons are some of the strongest slaying weapons of the game, and it is only their kits that hold them back from being busted in Splatoon 2. I maintain that opinion. Started in late 2020. You'll have seen tended to happen a lot. Interesting to see happen again and again. I'm like 3 sips of soup away. I think I'm going to speed run it. And then I'm going to speed run all the questions, and then we're actually going to talk about Splatoon. Soup eating ASMR. The soup is done. It was just kind of a generic noodle soup with a bunch of things I had in the fridge. Okay. So question, just picked up the range blaster, or the Grim Range Blaster. Any tips? I don't play blasters. So with regard to like where you should be positioning, I'm not quite as sure. The burst bomb combo with the blaster is nutty. I believe if you direct someone with a burst bomb and then indirect them with the blaster, it splats them, which is crazy and a great combo, and also missiles are busted. So it's got a good kit. I just don't know exactly how it should be positioning. And be aware that if you're running that on a comp that doesn't paint very well, you're going to suffer because you don't paint well either. How do I avoid survive being rushed as a mid-ranged weapon? Specifically, I mean Squiffer. So the idea with a longer ranged weapon is that you want to play your range. You want to put yourself in a position where if someone is going to rush you, you're going to have a lot of advanced warning of that. If somebody is sneaking up on you, you're mispositioning. You're putting yourself in a place where you can get rushed unexpectedly. So like right side peeking a corner is a really good idea. Like putting yourself someplace where if somebody's going to come at you, it's got to be from in front of you, and you have a place to duck behind cover immediately if they get too close. And then you can kind of reposition, get yourself back at max range, and have a shot ready by the time they come around the corner. Okay. Quick question. I heard Splat Dualies. Do you think I should continue playing Kensa Splat Dualies or learn the playstyle of a different dually? God, I loved K-Dualies so much, but in the current meta, there's just not a great place for the standard Splat Dualies, even the end parries. They get outclassed by the shooters because of the rolling. Baller is not a strong special right now. If you're going to go for one of the dualies, I would honestly maybe even pick the vanilla dualies above it, but end parries are definitely a better option, I would say, if you're trying to play aggressive. The baller ones aren't terrible because you can, get yourself out of a bad situation with the baller if you need to, but yeah, I don't know. The dualies that see a lot of play right now are the dualie squelchers. Dualie squelchers are really hype because of jump tech, which I've made a video about on YouTube. You see Tetras every now and again, but Tetras are a weapon where, like, if you're going to play them, you main them, and you play just them all the time. And you have a team comp that's built around them. And then they can pop off. But they need a lot of paint, and they need weapons that are going to make up for the fact that you basically don't have a kit. So. Okay. I need to... I could just have, Q&A forever here, but gotta, actually do the stream that is advertised at some point here. And this is some really, really good Splatoon that we're about to watch here. So for those who weren't around when I introduced this, this is the Splat World Championship. This is a tournament hosted in Japan with 6 of the top Japanese teams in the world, plus 1 North American super team and 1 European super team. So the Ice Biscuit Bagel brand, these are some of the very best players North America has ever had. And they are on a team that has played together pretty consistently called Starburst. These guys are monsters, okay? These guys, if you play any of these weapons, watch these guys as much as you possibly can and see what they're doing on them. Because you will not get many better examples of how to do it. But you can say the same about all the Japanese teams. They're showing like the peak X powers of these players before the matches, and there were Japanese teams that had multiple players above 3,000 X power. It is the very best in the world that we are seeing here. Most of them are at least 2,900. So should give you something of an idea of the caliber of player we're talking about here. Again, the difference between these players and me is like the difference between me and someone in low S plus, by the numerical rankings here. Just very, very good players. There's a lot that we can learn from like looking at them, but I just wanted to kind of show off these matches and talk a little bit about what the game looks like at the very highest level. So Starburst are the North American team. And then this is Bouganvilla, I think, something like that, is the name of the other team. It was some weird Italian-looking name, or French-looking name. I don't even know. Okay, so let's talk about the comps for a second. This is a very, very standard comp right here. We've got a Jet for race spam. We've got the kind of dual support sort of dynamic of the K-Shot and N-Zap. So this will put down a lot of paint and put out a lot of specials, and those specials will have a lot of impact on fights. And when they pop those specials, they're going to be able to rush in with those specials and actually take advantage of them, because these weapons can slay pretty well, on their own, but their real strength is their ability to paint and use specials that enhance that fighting. And then we've got the Neo Splash, which is going to be the primary aggressive weapon here, with its perfect accuracy, its fast movement speed, and the burst bombs to finish people off with snipes. This is one of the premier aggressive weapons in the game. On the other side, they've got a more passive comp here. They're a lot less about rushing at you and a lot more about walking at you slowly and menacingly. The K-52 is arguably the best weapon in the game right now. Its ability to stay alive in more aggressive positions than any other weapon is insane. It's not going to be as fast as getting to aggressive positions, but once it's somewhere, it's going to plant its wall, and it's going to be applying so much zone threat in front of it that you have to back up, and that's how its team is going to be able to work its way forward. H3 is an incredibly powerful slaying weapon, but only in very specific ranges, and if it misses a single shot, it's in a lot of trouble. So it's got to be really careful with how it positions, and it's going to play more for armor. And we've got a slosher for missiles, of course, and also because there's some cover that they might want to be sloshing up and over. So they've got a really solid triple midline comp, and then they've also got a jet for ray spam. And the jet has already got a ray, of course, and that ray is going off. Now, what's happening here that is really cool that you don't see a lot from North American teams is they're being disciplined and they're not going in yet. They're backing up when they recognize other guys got a ray first. They have the advantage in this fight. We don't want to take this fight. And I believe nobody from Starburst even goes down right now. They just play really defensively. They actually get a pick on the left-hand side. Like, they are willing to allow the other team to have zone for that initial opening fight. And then once that ray goes down, they're like, okay, they don't have that fighting power anymore. Now we push forward off of this pick that we were able to get on the slosher. They also do a great job of collapsing on this player and continuing the stagger. I talk about the feed stagger loop a lot in the S Plus video, which is one player goes down, and then your team is at a 4v3, and because of that, they lose a fight, and another player goes down. And so then when the first player respawns, they're still at a 4v3. And if you keep that going, that's how you really break a team down and knock it out really fast. Because they just, especially in splat zones, if they don't have 4 members up to contest your 4 members painting the zone, it doesn't matter if they can get all the way up to the zone, they still can't paint it. And they're not going to get all the way up to the zone because we're going to push up a little bit ahead of the zone and threaten you before you get there. So, Starburst in a great position right now. They've maintained a stagger through 2 cycles. The other team gets missiles and pops them now, but they don't have a lot of forward pressure to actually make use of that. They pop the ray as well to try and get picks now, and I think now Biscuit does go down. They get singled out on the left-hand side. This is the weak side for Starburst, because this is where Bouganvilla, or whatever their tag is, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but I don't speak Japanese. I'm doing the best I can, guys. This is where they can drop down from height advantage, and so this is a really risky place for Biscuit to end up in. So they get caught out, they get trapped, but look at Starburst backing up. Look at them not taking the fight. They're trying to play safely, and that is something that really keeps them in this game. Now, Brand and Ice here do end up losing a 1v2, and it looks like Ice doesn't see this in time and isn't actually helping, because it seems like the reason I would expect these two to be running back on the ramp is they expect someone's coming. And so Brand sees this coming and Ice doesn't. That's a little weird to me, maybe a little bit of a misplay. But this is the power of the 52. Because the 52 was, had a wall up, they were in a 1v1 in a 1v2. They were able to just completely wall Ice out of the fight for the entire duration. And then once they won that fight, then they had a 1v1 against Ice, and the 52 beats the jet at that range every time. So that's the massive strength of the 52. Okay, so Starburst has lost the first really decisive fight. Yeah, Starburst got a couple of picks early on individual members, and they were able to use that to get zone control, but they weren't able to really lock out and push them all the way back into zone, or into spawn. Now, Bouganvilla has the chance to do that, and this is, I think, probably the most impressive comeback that Starburst are able to make in this entire tournament here. So let's watch what they do. They're not even dropping down into this area here. There's nobody in this area. There's nobody even in front of this area up until you hit the 52, who's at the very bottom of ramp. But they're not dropping down here. Why? Because this area is a low ground area that's very exposed with very little cover. There's no reason for them to give up the advantages that they have by being up higher and being on the sides here. So they're not going to do it. Not at least until they're going to push in a lot more decisively. Ray goes out, and Ice, in case you didn't know, with Stingray, you're going to be able to spot all 4 players on the map for a flash right before it goes off. I'll try and pause it and highlight that so that you can see it in a second. But Ice is using this information right here. I missed it by just the tiniest bit. But you saw a little flash. I think you can still see the little flash right underneath this player because they're going to squid form of where those players are. And Ice is using that information to figure out where they all are, tell the rest of the team where they are. They recognize this player is isolated on the right-hand side, basically the same place I think that Biscuit caught out before, if I'm not mistaken. And they say, hey, everybody, look at the right side, look at the right side. I'm going to take this guy out. Actually, no, they're out of play. Let's focus on somebody who's in the middle instead. Booyah goes out to try and disrupt the backline here, try and disrupt the Stingray and keep those players back. And so Starburst just doesn't go in yet. You see, they're still sharking around the top right here. They never actually went in because the Booyah was coming out. They expected there was going to be pressure. Time is ticking down here. Like, they're at 22 ticks left. They've waited like 50 ticks to actually make this push, but they're biding their time. They're being disciplined. They know if we go now, it's not going to work. We're going to get picked. We're going to get staggered. We're going to go down. They wait until right now to actually pop the armor, hold forward. They go in. They get a pick. They have paint control. And notice they're not necessarily worried too much about painting the zone right now even though they're down at 17. Doesn't matter to them yet, because they need to win these fights first. They want to get more established control of the zone. They focus on the fights. The paint comes later. We end up capping the zone just by splatting people on the zone here. I think that this push right here is top level play. Like, so good. They were in a bad spot. They didn't let it get to them. They made a nice disciplined push in. They used the specials when they knew they had a power play. They got their picks. They finished the fight. They got complete control of mid. You can see this whole like blue line across the map. Chef's kiss. So good. Okay. And this part right here is actually really ballsy. Ice is going for a Ray really early on. They're like back in spawn right now. Because the idea here is Ice is very unlikely to get a pick. And that's why, you don't typically see someone pop a Ray right now. But if Ice does get a pick and it staggers them, it slows their push down exponentially. And I believe that does actually end up happening here. But this just speaks to Ice's ability as a player, because they're getting this completely unassisted. There is no pressure being put on this player, which is conventionally what you would say you want out of a Stingray. You want them to be, your teammates to be pushing forward and making it difficult for the other team to counterplay the Stingray. But they just get this one raw, and because of that, now the other team is staggered, and they have to wait another 10 seconds. That's another like 15, 17 ticks, something like that, before they can even think about moving forward again. In the meantime, another player goes down on the far right. Bouganvilla is trickling in here. And Starburst, notice, they're not over pushing. They're not trying to push like up into pit here because, like I said, low ground, no cover. This is not an advantageous position for them to be in. They're just painting up to that position and making it difficult for the other team to drop down. In splat zones, you usually don't want to spawn camp. Usually if you're pulling that off, you're going to be winning the game for other reasons. But against a team that's at a similar level to you, you push to about 60 to 75% up, just in front of the zone. You take the strongest defensive position that you possibly can, and you just hold there. And you slow them down from getting to the zone, but if you just sit and spawn, eventually you're going to get overwhelmed. Sitting in the enemy spawn is not an advantageous position no matter what spawn it is. Even on Walleye, sitting in the enemy spawn is so difficult to set up and so risky to set up, you're probably going to get picked before you go for it. The discipline from Starburst to not push up too far for picks, to wait for the pushes until the right moment, is what ends up ultimately, and I'm sorry if this is spoilers, but it ultimately ends up winning them this game. The Ray goes out here. The Ray doesn't end up getting anybody, which is huge. They have all of this, purple ink back here to swim around in to hide from it. So they, because there's no forward pressure from the midline players, they're free to just completely focus on avoiding the Ray. And the Booyah goes out. That'll displace Bran, and Bran might be in trouble here, but Biscuit holding his position. They're able to isolate this player on the right-hand side. Oh, they should have been able to get dig there, I think, but I think they do end up trading back. Trades 2 for 2. Okay, so the execution on that fight wasn't perfect, but also the way that they're able to hold here is amazing. So this is a 2v2 situation, right? The fight is not over. And so even though the cap has gone down for Bouganvilla, you have to realize that the numbers out here are still contestable. And so Ice and I think it's Biscuits on the K shot, I think it is. They keep the fight going. Or no, it's whoever it is who's on the splash. I'm blanking. Bran. So Bran comes in from a flank angle with Ice. This player gets baited by the fact that there's a jump here, and they're like, oh, if I can get Ice, then I can get this player next. But Bran comes in from mid, gets a double here, and they're able to actually maintain the zone. So great 2v2 play there. And then big penalty that they're going to have to work through at this point. So right now, and they don't have as much map control as they had before. Like, notice how they don't have control of the right-hand side anymore. Notice how they don't have people pushing up into left close. They don't have people up here. So this is going to be an easier retake for Bouganvilla since they've got specials right now. They're already popping the Ray. The missiles are probably going to come out soon. Yep, there they go right there. The fact that Ice was getting so much more out of his Rays, I think, is one big factor in this match. Because that Ray gets basically no value. Bran gets a good pick on this player. They're using cover here to isolate one player. They are in a 2v1 situation, sort of. But because they're able to put cover in between them and the second player, this player has got to hit around this wall. They're able to get an isolated fight against this one. And since they win that fight so convincingly, they are now able to put the pressure on the other one. And so this one player is fending off two. That frees up the rest of the team to be able to do an awful lot more. Bran is mechanically one of the most gifted players in the game. You'll see him making clutch plays like that all over the place. So after all of that goes down, it's a 1-for-2 trade. Bran does his job, goes down, and then there are two players down on the other side because Bran got one, and then his team was able to 3v2 on the other side. And so now it's a 3v2 situation, and there are only 14 ticks left, and there is just no shot that Bouganvilla has of being able to get in there and put enough paint on the zone. So very, very impressive showing from Starburst there. I think that's some of the most impressive North American Splatoon that I've ever seen in that particular game there. And it's on a map that nobody freaking plays, right? Nobody likes this map in North America. Nobody wanted this to be the tournament match. But it ended up going really, really well for them. And I think they should be proud. Okay. So next up, we're going to watch AgoDono versus MGR in Humpback Zones. I believe that's here. Further back a little bit. No. There it is. Okay, found it. I'm going to check in on chat real quick. Okay. I'm going to scroll through the chat really quick before I start the next one, just so that if anybody had any questions, I'm not skipping past it. Best players on Earth, but I'm not even online. Trying to play support so I can help my team out in case of bad situation. Octophones, consider the Dually Squelchers. Again, I have a video on my YouTube channel on jump tech. It makes those weapons absolutely busted. It's also just technically one of the coolest weapons in the game because you're kiting the entire time. You're playing like an 80 carry in League of Legends. Really, really cool, fun weapon. Highly recommend. Thoughts on Brush? Brush is viable. Brush, you have to know how to play it and how to play around it. It is not a Slayer weapon. It is a distraction. It is a skirmisher. But they have absolutely been used at the highest level to significant effect. So, you know, it has its niche. Support. People are talking in the chat about what support really is. Support. People use it to mean different things is part of the problem. Because on some teams there is just a support role. In other teams, the things that a support does are split across multiple members. Different team comps are going to, you know, break up different ways, and it's not as clear cut as like in League of Legends where you just have a support sometimes. Anyway, this is not the Area Cup. This is a lot of teams that you would see at the Area Cup. That, you know, their Area Cup rankings are listed there, but bit of a different. It's the same streamer that does the Area Cup. The European team was Alliance Rogue, Kiver, Gray, and I'm blanking on who the others were. Okay. JP Comp had a lot of MPU weapons. They had an H3, so yes, that's an MPU weapon. The Jet's not MPU. I don't think the Slosher's MPU. And what was their other? Kgal. Does Kgal run MPU? I guess that would help at paint. I don't remember. Okay. Upload this stuff to YouTube. We need more stuff like FLC used to do. Yeah, all of them do get put on the YouTube channel. Like, you can go back and watch these streams after the fact. How do you get good gear fast? Short answer, you don't. Long answer, you look up what build you want to do and have that exact build in mind before you ever start building anything. You farm up a whole lot of chunks from playing matches in, you know, whenever you're playing matches, just farm in the meantime. And then when you have an idea of what you want to build, you know, maybe use sea snails to re-roll on the correct gear brand. There are a bunch of videos on the different mechanics of how to do that, but yeah, shopping from the lobby can be a good idea if you want to get like the exact right brand and main. Yeah, do it if you like Salmon Run. You get a lot of perks from Salmon Run that help you with it. Obito and yeah, Obito is the top Western H3, no question about it. They've hit like 29.97, I think. And they were, I believe they were on Alliance Rogue for this tournament. Or no, 29.97. That was Bagel, I think. I'm probably misremembering. Anyway, okay, I've answered all the questions. So let's skip ahead here. One thing, it would be really cool if we could get these images translated, because I feel like this might be really interesting information to be sharing with the English audiences. But what they're showing here are the directions that people are going to tend to push the zone from, and once they have control of the zone, how they're going to try and lock out, which I think is really cool. So once the team has control of zone, you're going to want to put some people over on the right-hand side here on Humpback, and then some people are going to want to shark down here to catch people dropping left. So I don't, you know, I can tell that from the diagrams. I can't read Japanese, and so, you know, having these with English lettering would be super duper cool. Really cool graphic design element that they added here. But here we go. This match is bonkers. This is such an insanely cool round of Splat Zones. So, talk comps really quick. this very similar comps to what we've been seeing. We're going to be seeing a lot of Jet Squelcher. We're going to be seeing a lot of NTAP. We're going to be seeing a lot of K52 and a lot of K-Shot. It's interesting. I personally believe that the two strongest weapons in the game right now are K52 and Foil Squeezer. But I think Squeezer, being as specialized as it is, being something that you have to work on a lot to get the aim down because you have to repeatedly tap the button instead of just holding it. I think that because of that mechanical complication, fewer players are using it than its strength relative to the other weapons would suggest. But extremely powerful weapon. And we see, anytime the bubbles come out, it's going to have an impact on the game. Flingza coming out here. Flingza is one of the premier missile spam weapons in the game. It just paints like crazy. It has a lot of range, and it's really, really good on Humpback specifically because Humpback is a dome in the middle. And a roller or a slosher is going to be great for hitting up over the top of this curved surface where a shooter would just like shoot the floor and not be able to hit its opponent. So that's one of the big advantages of the Flingza here, and that's one of the reasons they're bringing that out. Notice they both have the vanilla Jet Squelchers, so they're not running the Ray version here because the Ray version doesn't paint as much. They're running the missiles here. Missiles are really strong on this map. It's also a very wide map. Ray tends to do better on narrower maps where you don't have as much lateral movement. It's probably also a lot easier to dodge the Ray because of the slopes. Tracking someone down a slope is a little bit trickier because you have two dimensions you have to worry about instead of just one. So those are some reasons I could see them wanting to pull that out. I believe this one has Toxic Mist, which can also be useful in helping prevent the other team's players from painting in crucial situations. And that will come up for sure. So, out of the two comps, this one is a little bit more of like a mid-range zone them out kind of comp because you've got the Squeezer that can stand from really long sight lines. The Flingza isn't so much of a slaying weapon from long range. It's more of a painting weapon. But these guys, they're going to be trying to use their armor and their 52 and presumably the a sharking roller play to try and be pushing forward, I think, a little bit more aggressively. One thing to also note is that AgoDono, they are the 1 seeds of this tournament. And on their team, this K52 player is insane. They're a peak of 3,111 X power. Highest X power ever recorded is on that player. And so they are cracked as heck, and all they really need to do is set that player up with enough paint support to do their thing. That's kind of what their game plan seems to be. That's kind of how the casters are talking about them here. So we'll talk about that. Another, the Squeezer here is obviously a very unique aspect to this game. It's what makes this comp unique from the other one. And we're going to be talking about their positioning a lot because the camera likes to focus on them, and I'm glad that it does because they're cracked and fun to watch. So here we go. So MGR rolls out on the left-hand side. Melon spots that, immediately gets a pick. And they're just 2 down. Melon knows where both of the players are already. And I want to point out, so they get this pick, right? Then they know to back up. This is something that you see a lot of lower level players not do. When you get a pick, chances are the way you've had to extend to get that pick puts you at a disadvantage. You've committed to a fight. That means you've moved forward for it. You've maybe gotten shot once or twice. You're maybe on some enemy ink. You're pretty far forward at that point. If you get the pick, sometimes you need to cut your losses and run backwards. You're not going to be surrendering pressure because now your team is in a 4v3 and also they know where the other player who's shooting at you is. So you've done your job at this point. But he backs up, keeps himself safe as the missiles come down, and then he's able to threaten this player just by throwing the wall out there. They're like, oh, that's a wall. I'm backing out of here before I even know where the player is. And so they zone them out. And then they immediately know that there's someone here already because they're probably listening to callouts or something. And so they pre-fire this area so that nobody can stand up on the very lip of this ledge and take them out. They're in this commanding position where they're actually able to stop both sides from being able to push in for a little bit. Now they, of course, have to back up a little bit. But missiles go off from Hanju here. I'm probably going to mispronounce all of their names, so apologies to any Japanese speakers who are going to be cringing at me. Melon gets into a bit of a tough spot, is forced to Booyah Bomb. Does get someone with the Booyah Bomb, so it trades back even though he's in a 1v2. But now the bubbles are going to come out from MGR, and they should be able to cap the zone with those pretty easily. The bubbles give a lot of burst paint. They paint the zone very, very quickly if they all pop at the same time. So it's extremely difficult to contest a bubble push. You know, they're going to be pushing in with Object Shredder. They're going to have a bomb down on top of it already. They're going to get the ink tank refill from popping the special. It's just really darn difficult to stop bubbles from popping. And so AgoDono just has to back up. That's kind of what makes this special so powerful in splat zones. So now this is interesting. We've got the flank coming up over the left-hand side from Yozo here. So this is a position where they can use their range to push these players forward or out of position. Like, these players can't take cover over here. If MGR is able to put pressure over mid, they can kind of get a bit of a pinch on these guys here. So I think that's what the idea is here, but Yozo notices, okay, there's nobody coming through mid, and we are losing the zone. This is not something that's actually helping us right now. I need to back up because I'm not going to have support. So looks like they get spread a little bit thin here. The K-shot goes down to Melon. Notice Melon already at 3 KA. Melon, that's a really scary fight to take, honestly, at that range, against a weapon that's, you know, longer range than you. But Melon sees Yozo falling, trusts them to miss their shots, and they chase it. Yozo does a great job of kiting back here. So I think Melon's trying to challenge it just a little bit too far ranged away. So a little bit of an overextension there. Yozo able to clean it up. And now they will have bubbles to be able to contest this push. Are they going to pop the bubbles here? Okay, they're just getting this team's attention and saying, hey, you got to look right. You got to look right. You better look right. Look at me. I'm right here. And in come the bubbles. But great wait there from Melon. He's like, hey, this is my highlight reel. Did we see that they were there before? I want to take a quick look back. I may have gone a little bit further back than I needed to, but we're here now. Yeah, I don't think we noticed that. I don't think that's in Yozo's point of view. But they've fired these shots. They've made it clear that they're here. So Melon, spotting that, waits to see where the bubbles are coming from, shoots right behind them, takes them out before they can actually do anything. And so this should be a power play for AgoDono. They've gotten somebody else down elsewhere on the map. All right. Melon gets solo missiled. They just back up. Looks like MGR is trying to use that opportunity to maybe neutralize the zone, maybe cap the zone, slow it down a little bit. They have information from those missiles. They don't really have much more, I don't think. Although, I don't know. I guess they had a second missile to drop afterward. So that one for information and then one for displacement. Maybe that's the plan. MGR goes in with those bubbles, and these ones are going to be really difficult to contest. They pop, and they don't actually get the cap there. How did that happen? So, okay, they've only got bubbles on the right-hand side, I guess. But it was really from the right-hand side. I guess it coincided right with a slosh from the Flingza roller going over the top. Flingza does paint a lot, even at that range where some of it's going to fall in the trench. And Melon goes down somewhere. We don't see what exactly happened. But something to think about, you know, you're playing all around Melon, right? Melon is the only true aggressive weapon on this comp. The Zap can go in and do things, but especially in Japan, their mindset is that the support should not get caught out into fights. The support should always be painting. Support should always be going for more armors, more specials, so that the rest of the team can fight well. they don't play the support role as aggressively as you tend to see in Western play. So maybe that's factoring into it as well. Regardless, Melon goes down. MGR now has control of the map. They, are behind, but they don't have that much of a penalty, so this is a threat. Clicks is going in with that armor. Great aggressive play there. I think, Clicks is trying to set up a position where they're going to be able to just kind of throw bombs and paint, but they spot someone right here. They have to attend to it right away. They take a good fight. They win it, and so now that's going to be advantage AgoDono. They're going to be able to take this back. I'd just like to point out that this jet, it's not even halfway through the game, and they have 7 missiles launched already. All right? That's what's been going on from MGR right now. They have launched 13 missiles, and it is less than halfway through the video game. Like, think about what your special counts are at the end of games, right? How often do you have 7 specials at the end of the game? They have it halfway through. So that should give you an indication of like how they've been playing so far. You see the 0 and 1 KA. They're not going for the heavy KA. They're going for missile spam. And there's another missile launched off. And the bubbles go out, and they're able to cap the zone with those. So it just kind of goes back and forth. Nobody's going down, and so MGR isn't able to actually use these specials to regain control. They go in and get cap, and again, this is bloodless. So, like, there's going to have to be a fight to reassert their control over the map. Let's see how that happens. So we've got the 52 skirmishing on the right-hand side, and that's flushed a whole bunch of players down into trench, which means that since they're not here, they don't have the ability to paint the zone anymore, and MGR moves in and gets the zone from behind them. Now, this doesn't make the 52 any safer, and this could easily result in the other players being able to win fights. But now we've got a 52 duel here between Timo, there might be more to their tag than that, and Melon on the plat here. Melon ends up winning it, and so now, even though AgoDono kind of forced to jump out and they lose one, they have one back, and they should be able to start pushing in pretty soon here. Oh, but MGR's got those bubbles. Melon, how do you do this? He just waits for the bubble to go through him, to cross him up, and then he's immediately right in front of the squeezer as soon as it comes out. This is a ballsy play, right? If the squeezer just decides to insta-pop these bubbles or even throw one bomb at them, this guy goes down. But I think he's recognizing, he's seen a pattern that these bubbles stay out for a while, that they're trying to use them to pop on the zone for paint or something. But really ballsy read there, like, I wouldn't have gone for that. That's not to say, by the way, that I think I know better than Melon. That is to say, I am scared to do what Melon is doing. All right. So very, very small lead right now to AgoDono, but they have basically no penalty. So MGR is very incentivized to want this cap so that that lead doesn't bleed any further in the other team's favor. They end up using a Booyah Bomb, and it doesn't cap because the other team is painting through it. Booyah Bomb is not a great painting special. One player from the enemy team shooting through it can outpaint it, and that's exactly what we see here. There was not really any other follow-up with the Booyah Bomb paint. And this must be so frustrating for MGR. They're painting and painting and painting like crazy. They got 22 missiles that they have launched so far. That is a lot of paint they have had to paint to get that. But they still don't have control of the zone. And they're not able to, keep the ink in the tanks long enough to go paint it. Kuro, once again, going out and trying to paint it. Melon is in a crazy position. They have no support here, and they are jumping above cover, and they do get picked out for that. Jumping also increases the aim RNG on the Kensa 52 gal. So the fact that he's not only putting himself above all cover, but also jumping and potentially throwing his shots off with that, little overzealous there. And so they get the pick on Melon, and then what happens after that? Okay, so the Jet is already down. Then Melon goes down, and now it's like a 3v1 on the NZAP who's trying to help out on the left. So, yeah, good cap there from MGR. Yeah, you know, they're punishing some over-aggression from AgoDono. Great jump out there from Hanjo. A lot of lower-level players will stay in that situation and die. They recognize immediately, there is no way out of this. I need to super jump. So now, same kind of approach that we're seeing from MGR, except this time they're swapping them. They're putting the 52 on this side. They're putting the Squeezer on this side. 52 has Booyah, so if they get dropped on, they'll be a little safe. But so this positioning ends up being really interesting right here. So this is a strong position for a Squeezer if they're able to take window, because they have, you know, long range pressure on anyone who tries to drop down on the enemy plat. And if nobody's pressuring them from the enemy plat, they can also turn backwards and look at the zone and have enough range to paint some of it. So this is a great position. Like Devi on the Hydra loves to take that position. If you have longer range than most of the players on the enemy team, that's a great place to be. But they're going to get left alone here because there's really nobody that's going to be coming over from the left-hand side in any way. And everybody else is going to be trying to focus on the zone. So it's an interesting tactical battle of like, do they need to worry about this Squeezer? Is this Squeezer stopping anything from happening? They try to... so this player, Ryokun, I think they're the Jet. They want to be painting the zone right now. They want to be, you know, they've got 9 missiles of their own, right? They want to be painting a lot. And Yozo can see that and is interfering with it. So Ryokun... here, it looks like they want to just like drop over and maybe like paint the zone from below or something like that to try and prevent lead from going over to MGR here. But after a couple shots, they're like, oh shoot, Yozo is still engaging me. They eventually juke him and get down here. And now Yozo's in a predicament. Because if Ryokun gets to the zone in time, they can paint the zone. And they're not actually stopping anything from happening. And they don't have as good a position to paint the zone as Ryokun could get from someplace else. So they're like, wait, do I paint the zone? I guess I have to paint the zone, but I'm getting zoned away from the zone. Look at 1 point of lead here is all that separates these two. And they trade 2 for 2. So we still don't know who has lead here. And they're still fighting for the zone. They're still painting the zone. They get a pick on the right-hand side, but they're still not able to paint the zone all the way. They finally get the cap. And now MGR has numbers. So Yozo's fighting for it. And it is such an awkward position for MGR because they're in 3 different places. But because they're in 3 different places, they're able to pinch Melon here. They're able to get a player on either side of them. So 2 for 2 trade. AgoDono, what happens here? MGR wins this one fight, and that is what finally allows them to be able to take the zone. It's because the Jet goes down to Teemo here, because Ryokun had to drop down in response to the Squeezer being up here. They were in this bad position against the 52, and that is what eventually ends up winning MGR that fight over the cap. And that's part of the strength of the 52 gal right there. The way that they can use their wall to push into positions that no other weapons could push through. So like right here, this is not a position that you can fight against this weapon from if you don't have the range to be hitting it. They're around the corner. They've already hit one shot, but you use the side of the wall. You stay inside the wall, and you're able to get in. Now, they don't get quite everything there. It ends up being a trade, which is good for the NZAT there, but a trade still means that you've maintained the status quo. Now, AgoDono making an incredibly aggressive push right now because they know they need the zone capped by the time is up. So, like, they need zone in 5 seconds. It can't be neutral. It has to be capped to trigger an overtime. So Melon, you know, they're doing their best. They go in, they take out a painting weapon, but there's just not enough time, and the other members are all focused on the objective. They don't. If Melon goes and tries to fight them, he's wasting time that he could be spending painting the zone. And so they're going to be able to win based on that. Melon just has too much work cut out for them. They probably could have capped the zone if Melon had had more time, but they didn't. So MGR has played this really well. Super exciting match there. The commentators, you should go back and listen to it. They're running out of breath. They're yelling too much because the zone just stays uncapped for so long there. Oh my goodness. Insane. Okay. So I'm going to go back and once again read through a bunch of chat messages just to see if there are any questions that I missed or anything like that. And then we'll move on to at least one more game after that. Maybe another one for the fans. Is Squeezer the melee fox of Splatoon? I would say that Kgal is the fox. No, because Kgal, yeah. Because the thing about Fox is that he's like really fast and technical and high skill ceiling. So I would say like if in terms of playstyle, the Tetras are Fox. But in terms of like viability, sure, Kgal is Fox. Everyone says painting focus, the area is open and there are many positions to paint all of the zone from, and it's shown by the arrows. And we saw that. We saw that MGR was taking multiple positions around the zone to paint from. Number 2 is defense movement options. Just warning players to keep away from that area as it's where the enemies have an advantage. Yeah, exactly. Swim speed OP. Yep, swim speed is very strong. Sounds more like Hanjo. Okay, thank you. It sounds like your name. Do you still VOD review with people? Yes, I do. That's every Tuesday, Grizzy. Splat Zones only tournament? No. My understanding is that, like, they're playing on the modes that got the teams into this tournament, that, like, qualified them for this tournament. So, like, there was one team that qualified by playing Turf War, and so there were actually Turf War sets in this tournament, and then the Western players were playing in tournaments with all 4 modes, and so they were able to just pick what they wanted to go to. Japan has a very zone focused mindset in Splat Zones. Like, they will put people on painting the zone until those people are interfered with. And they're just always painting. They're never not painting. They may be vying for zone control at the same time as they're painting. They may be like, hey, I'm standing here and painting right now, but if I decided to shoot you, I could. That's kind of what they'll try and do, but like always painting. Playing on LAN over the internet. Definitely over the internet. How do you know how many missiles they have? It's at the top of the screen. There's one number for their KA and one number for their specials, just like you'll see on the results screen at the end. But let's take a quick look. 26 missiles in one game. And the other team had 20. They were not far behind. This is what the Flingza roller does at the top level of play. 0 splats, 11 missiles. Just so insane that is that is a number that we're seeing for their specials. And like, look at how low the KA is. They're just contesting the zone. Melon, that, you know, top frag crack slayer, has 8. That's how that went on an overtime, a near overtime push in Splat Zones. So, okay, trying to remind myself. Oh right, we were looking at the round 2 for Starburst. Against Resistance, yes. It wasn't this one. So if you go back and watch Grands, this player here, Nyagora, head explode, so cracked, insanely good player. They're playing midline. So on the previous game, they played mini, and I want every mini in the game right now to be watching what Nyagora was doing on that mini to control space. On both on Starfish, really, and on they play a match on Black Belly at some point. The way that Nyagora is flanking on what is traditionally considered, by conventional Western thought, to be a support weapon, the mini Splatling, playing it on the flank as if it's like a sploosh or something. They are an absolute menace on that side of the map. They were just completely locking it down, forcing two people to deal with them. Cracked player. Absolutely insane. Cannot speak highly enough of what this player was doing at this tournament. Go and watch them if you play any Splatling at all. Or even any midline weapon. I think for one of the rounds they were playing Rapid, and that was like one of the most impactful weapon choices of the entire tournament. Just so good. Anyway, enough hagiography. We're watching, this is Rainmaker on Skipper. And this is also a really cool map. So this is showing the primary push directions that you're going to be going in from. So the bread and butter push, the slow and steady push, as I like to say it, is this red line right here to go up this ramp, and then notice how it just goes straight to the goal. There is a wall right at this corner where my mouse is that you can paint the side of and climb up. Not enough players know about that at lower levels. This gets you to 10 if you get up above this wall, and if you get to the wall, the entire time you're up at the wall, nobody's going to be able to shoot you. So if you get to this wall, it's a free push to 10, and it's much faster than trying to go around or trying to go like up this wall and then up around or whatever else you're going to try and do. Or I think what most people try to do is climb up this wall and then paint this wall and climb up this wall. No, go up the side of this corner, and that's how you get there the fastest. So that's why the arrow does what it does. Then there's also an optional push from the middle of the map. So instead of starting from here, you push the Rainmaker through the middle, and as soon as you drop it down here, you're already at like 45 points. So if you just need a quick 45 points to like win in a very low scoring overtime situation, literally just get it to mid, drop it onto the slick, and you're there. So that's a good idea for like quick early points, but also this whole thing is unpaintable and you're walking uphill. So this is really dangerous if you haven't cleared everybody away during the time that the Rainmaker has to walk this particular part right here. Another thing that's useful to note that this doesn't show off is that this little corner right here, you can jump from here across onto the slick. And so that's a quicker way to get from mid to a safer part of the slick, so you have to spend less time walking uphill on the slick. So let's move forward here. I am moving forward. It's just on that screen. There we go. All right. So these are our North American friends against Resistance. So here we go. Very similar comp to what we've been seeing so far. Ice is going to be a very crucial member of the team for Starburst here because they have the Ray. Stingray is such a powerful tool in Rainmaker for shutting down pushes. You can see the Rainmaker at all times, when someone's got it picked up. So you're going to be able to just always have perfect aim on that, and it's not super easy for the Rainmaker to dodge around and avoid a pick against the top-level Stingray user. So they've got the Ray from the Jet Squelcher, which is a very standard way to get it. Now, this comp is really cool. I like this comp a lot. And it's not something that you're as likely to see in North American play. Couple reasons for that. Number one, L3D. Japanese teams seem to favor L3D over T-Tech a lot of the time. T-Tech is a lot of the time the like short range inkjet of choice for American teams, because it's got it's got more maneuverability. It's got a more straightforward sub weapon to get picks with. You just roll it in one direction and then shoot in the other. It's got a lot of utility there. But what the L3D does have is better painting range. It paints better in general. And like, we were talking about with Japanese teams, a lot of the time they're just going to default to painting, and they're going to try and take paint control, and they're going to, get more inkjets on this weapon a lot of the time than a T-Tech who's trying to play more aggressively and play for sharks and stuff like that. The Japanese team is going to be moving more as a unit rather than trying to put individual players in their base to annoy them. And so we'll see Raimaru here. They're going to... worth noting, they also have a second inkjet here. So, inkjet is a big part of their game plan. So they're going to have a little bit more of that inkjet aggression coming out anyway, as it is. But that brings me to my second weird weapon choice, quote unquote, which isn't actually that weird at all given the circumstances, which is the vanilla ballpoint. This is a backline weapon that has inkjet. That's normally crazy. Because inkjet is a weapon that you want to use from under a ledge right in front of the enemy backliner. How does a backliner push up into that position? Well, you play it on a map like Skipper, where the backline is often going to stand right here in mid. So it's not that difficult to sneak up behind cover over here and just jump up with inkjet and pop them in their base. And we'll see that happening. Nyagora likes taking this middle section here so that they can both defend it from someone who's trying to come into this area and use the inkjet to get up over the top. And then notice we have a ray here. We do actually also have a ray because this is a vanilla squeezer. So all three of these weapons, the ballpoint, the L3, and the squeezer, are main weapons we see frequently. But these kits are not what we tend to see. But because of the way that they've shuffled the specials around and, figured the comp out, this actually works super duper well. Really, really cool comp that you don't see a lot of, and I want to see more Western teams experimenting with stuff like that. Because even though, it is important to play the weapons that are viable, that are good, that are going to give you the best chance of winning, sometimes there are more of those than you think there are. A lot of people would just look at the vanilla squeezer and be like, really niche, probably bad, probably wouldn't consider picking it up. But they run it here to great effect, as we will see. Okay. So Nyagora actually comes down on bottom side to start with, and they pop armor, and they're going to try and get control. And so then Nyagora coming up here to take control of middle, as I think they tend to do for the rest of the match here. And they're up here putting pressure on the right-hand side so that if Starburst tries to walk forward, they're actually getting pinched between the players in front and the players on this side. Starburst all going down on the bottom side is a bit of a risk because a flank like this could have come through. A lot of the time you'll see that coming through from a frontliner who decides to drop down into this area, but for resistance here with, a little bit more of a range-oriented comp, they opt instead to put a backliner here, which is also pretty effective. So Nyagora playing it super safe, doesn't want to go down here, doesn't want to surrender this extra threat. Even if they don't get any picks from here, they're having impact on the game simply by being there and being something that Starburst has to deal with. So it's smart of them to be, focusing on maintaining their own life rather than necessarily going all in to try and trade or something. Okay, so the bomb goes off here. Nyagora should know that somebody's looking at this, because if you put a bomb there, they have to know this is either the Zap or the K-Shot, first of all. If you put a bomb there, that means you're, over here. Why would you be over here if not to push mid? So I think this is a little bit of a misplay on Nyagora's part. I think that could have probably been a pick from Bran if Nyagora had been the tiniest bit slower. But this is what Nyagora is here for. Nyagora is here so that if Ice backs up to pop a ray, Nyagora gets to get the inkjet and do this and stop the ray from having an impact, gets the pick there. Absolutely brilliant. Now, they don't have to be the one popping the ray, because normally it's the backliner doing that, right? They don't have to pop it because it's the squeezer that has the ray. So the squeezer now is free to ray at will because the ray over here has been dealt with by an inkjet. And, you know, if the Ray had gone up over here, okay, then the Inkjet just, you know, from the L3 probably goes up over there and takes care of it. So they've got a great, like, anti-Ray idea going here with the double Inkjet. And this is so smart, too. Like, they're going up the slick, which, you know, like we said, it's a vulnerable position, but they know that there's someone up on the top side here. And so they know if they get the squeezer up onto this position, they're going to be able to force anybody who wants to attack the Rainmaker backwards between that and the Inkjet. And so the Rainmaker just gets to walk forward here, and they walk it pretty far forward. It gets stalled on the wall, and the camera has a lot of trouble seeing what goes on here. But this is that wall I was talking about. This is the wall you really want to be going up in Rainmaker. And they get it all the way up to 7, which is a tremendous push. And that's a lot for North America to have to come back from. They do have 4 minutes to do it, but that's got to be a little bit disheartening at first. Okay, so they just suicide the Rainmaker off to try and get it down to the bottom side quicker. They probably could have just, like, painted up and let it reset in that position, but maybe they didn't know if there was a shark somewhere, you know. Better safe than sorry, I would say. Because if they do accidentally let someone sneak into the goal there and grab it, that's the quickest knockout. Like, nobody's going to be able to stop that in time. So, probably wise. Just, it's going to make them a little bit slower on the way out here. And so, Raimaru is going to be able to get in the way of Ice and keep Ice out of the play a little bit longer. But remember, Ice has the Ray. Ice is never completely out of play, so they still have a shot here. But Bagel has to worry now about this guy who's coming through mid, and hopefully Ice has called this out. I'm surprised that nobody's dropping back to try and help them with this, because Bagel does not have a way forward yet. So I think that push maybe a little bit pulled apart there by the flank from Rai. So Ice just giving them jumps in here like a good anchor, has the Ray ready to go, and is able to isolate this player, force them to drop down into Bran. Bran gets an easy pick. So really great use of the Ray there. Really great anchoring in general from Ice. They pick it up, and they're running it. And this is going pretty far, but it's going to get stopped. However, they are still at a numbers advantage because of this pick that Bagel is able to get trading back. It's just the ballpoint. And so they can keep the pressure up, and they can try and pop this and try and get it further and maybe turn this 39 into a push that can actually be lead. So what they're going to want to do is give jumps, and they use specials. They actually use the missiles there, I think, because Bagel on the K-shot is looking to pick it up. Biscuit just sharking here. Decides, okay, I'm not going to be able to get up on that side because someone's watching me. The Ray comes out, but Ice wins the Ray battle? Okay, let's see here. Ray goes out from... I think it actually goes out from Ice first. And then they try to counter Ray, but Ice has their eyes on it first, so they just trade Rays. Bagel, I like the patience here. There are a lot of specials in your way. Not worth just dying here. Like, you want to see if you can give your front line the time to make a good push. They pick the Inkjet here. That's huge from Biscuit. Biscuit being in this position may not be allowing them any forward pressure, but it does prevent a push over the left or the middle like this. Because this is a 52 gal. This is hard to push through. But now Bagel's in trouble from the Inkjet. Trying to shoot at it with a Rainmaker. They don't end up getting it. But great shots from Ice, who's since jumped in to be able to get that extra pick. The tenacity from Starburst right now is really, really good. And they get another pick that's so huge. So now they're going to be able to keep this push going. On defense, like, you need to be able to get enough of an advantage to push them back. Otherwise, the push is going to keep going here. Now, you know... On offense, this is still hard because they're stalling the push successfully, and you do need to push pretty far, but the fact that they've been able to keep the Rainmaker here this whole time is huge. So Ice very close to Ray, and again, Ice isn't going to pick it up. Ice has the Ray. Ice has this really important special to try and use. And now they're using it to try and distract the players up on the top right so that Bran and whoever else this is are able to rush up and get picks. Because these players are going to be damaged by the Ray. And so when Bran and whoever else goes up there, they're going to have an advantageous fight. Now, okay, Bagel is able to come back in the nick of time to pick this up. Biscuit and Bran are able to combine to get picks there. They get another one there. Ice is putting on so much pressure, and this is actually huge now. This player is out of play now. They cannot defend against the Rainmaker. It's just this one guy up on the top right who goes down there. Now, they're going to be able to push really far here, but Ice still needs to clean this up because they've got a player who is behind them. And watch what happens there. This is insane. This never happens. They get a backwards-facing Stingray from behind the enemy team, and they stop it at 8. They stop it 1 point short. This is the clutchest play ever. It's so insane to me. And from there, Bran can't stay up there because he's going to get flushed out, and he knows that the squeezer is there in position to stop him. Bran goes down. They can't keep getting jumps in. The push is dead at 1.2 short. But Starburst go in, get another pick. They've still got a minute and 20 seconds left. So they've got to watch this player who's in the middle here because they're going to put some crossfire down, but Ice is in the perfect position to watch it. Ice has been so clutch at spotting where the crossfire is going to come from, and that's allowing their frontliners to look ahead of the Rainmaker while Ice plays bodyguard for the Rainmaker. That's something that's really critical to have on your team. If you don't have someone whose dedicated job is Rainmaker bodyguard, someone who watches behind or to the side of the Rainmaker, you're going to get picked by a lot of random flanks and lose the Rainmaker in positions where you don't have to. So there, they spot the ballpoint up, and they want to specifically target the ballpoint because the ballpoint has special. So this is a great pick to go for with the Ray, and they do in fact get it, and they're able to get another person in there with it, and they get another pick. This is so huge. Other team this is a 4v2, so even if you count the Rainmaker out and you count Ice as not being, meaningful anymore, this is still a 2v2 fight that they're going to get to fight. So this is an enormous chance for NA. They push forward. The Rainmaker goes down, so that's a really clutch play on the part of this player right here, but it's a trade. 2v2. This is still very winnable right here. Booyah going to go out. They've got missiles out, pushing Resistance away. Resistance just sits back in spawn. They know that it has to go really, really far. They're not going to push out too far at all and risk anything. Ray goes out. Ray is targeting the frontliners. They move really, really well, and I don't think they end up getting picked there. The Inkjet is going out to try and apply extra damage to it, but the Rainmaker looks like it's going to reset here, and Ice also goes down, which is also the loss of the Ray. So that's a really good defensive play there from Resistance. North America is still 2 down, so they're going to have to play it really safe and jump in here. They're going to have to play this push slow. This is going to go into overtime. This is their last chance. But they're playing it really safe. And this is something that I love about what Starburst is doing. They're being disciplined. They're not going in too early. They're farming their specials. They're sitting back. They're waiting until they have an advantageous fight, and then they're taking those positions. That bomb up there is actually really helpful because you have to get pretty close up to this ledge to be able to peek over it and actually hit someone. So this is really limiting the angles that this player up here, is this the L3? Yeah, L3. It's really limiting the positions they're going to be able to take to harass with these burst bombs. So, like, you think about how big the radius is, they have to be all the way up on this corner to be able to hit anything, and that's somewhere you might actually see threat from Bran. But we don't see what ends up happening over there. Ray goes out to try and pick the Rainmaker here, and Bagel just has to run for his life, and they do manage to do it. So the Ray is down. They have a window, and out goes this Ray. And this Ray is tracking down Raymaru up here on the Inkjet. The Inkjet goes down to the Ray. That's 2 down because somebody else goes down in the meantime. So this is huge. Another Inkjet goes down. It is 4v1 right now. In overtime, they just need to push to lead. And we just saw a little bit of a spoiler there, but look at what the Squeezer is able to do through a Booyah Bomb, through literally every other player in the game shooting at them. They are able to find the range to get that pick and stop it at a 1-point lead. Oh, that one was a heartbreaker to watch, but I hope it was at least entertaining. And hey, look at that. Restream is still automatically spamming that information, even though I turned the timer off. Very, very cool. Thank you. Whew. Reading through the comments now. Almost as if Zinc could lean into that style. I'm not crazy. Camera is wobbling a lot. Not a big deal. Just thought I'd mention it. That's probably just from my leg bouncing. Thanks for letting me know, though. I'll try and keep that down. Squeezer deserves an award. Yeah, absolutely. If the Squeezer does not get that pick, Starburst 100% wins that game. No question about it. Oops. There it is. So, Squeezer top fragging there. Bran, worth noting, 10 missiles. Ice top fragging for Starburst, which is so huge for them. Man, that was some fun Splatoon to watch. Let's see, what time do we got right now? It's 4:20. Let's go and watch Grands. What do I want to watch from Grands? This is Snapper Zones, which is a little weird. Schellendorf is also a little weird. Black Belly. Is this? Oh yeah, I want to watch this one. This is another great. This is a great showcase of what Niagara was doing. They're doing it on the Nautilus. Granted, a different Nautilus than we're used to, but I still think it really plays well into the way that they were playing it. So let's watch this one. So this is Grand Finals. This is AgoDono versus Resistance. So the team that just beat Starburst versus the team that beat ends up beating MGR in the end. I think MGR actually took that game, if I remember correctly, but AgoDono does make it out. And so we're playing on Black Belly at the moment. Black Belly Zones. This is a really interesting map mode, I think, because the double zones are very separated from each other by cover. A lot of the time you end up having different players capping either zone. And you have players, playing off on different sides of the map. You have to spread yourself a little bit thinner to cover everything. This is a really strong tri-slosher map, and so we see Haruto coming out with this tri-slosher here, and you actually see one on the other side too. We'll see who was playing that in a second when we swap over to the other side, I think. It's Clix. Clix is their support. Clix is generally the one who's going to be popping armor for them. But so they go out here early, and a couple of early picks go down. Haruto puts some pressure on Clix, but Clix is going to be fine there. Himajin, which is... this is the player who... What were they playing in the game that we saw of them before? I can't remember anymore. Was this the Squeezer? I think this is the Squeezer from the Starburst match. I think that's true. So they pull out the Ray here and take out Ryukun, and meanwhile some fights are just happening to go Resistance's way elsewhere on the map, so they get control first. So from here, I think it switches over to Niagara's perspective. Because Niagara is doing something interesting right now. Okay, we're just going to look at the K-shot farming for missiles. Cool. Ryukun pops a Ray. This is going to be, you know, the party starter here for AgoDono. The counter Ray comes out. But zone gets capped for AgoDono in the meantime. So they're going to lose control very quickly, but at least they have it. Melon not able to get anything done there. Just not a winning position against weapons with that range. And they're able to dive in on AgoDono on their T there. Bit of a mistake from AgoDono, at a disadvantage to be in that position right there. But part of the reason that it's happening is because of what Niagara is doing over here on the left-hand side. And we do see them finally cleared out by the Tri-Slosher. We will get a chance to see Niagara showcasing what's happening there. But Niagara basically pushed everybody into the middle there from the left-hand side. That's why that worked out the way it did. So Click's trying to take control up here with the Tri-Slosher, clear anybody off of the snipe area to their left. Ryamaru gets another couple of shots there, and the burst bomb is going to be enough to do it. So they are able to get one pick. AgoDono is 2 down. Right, Resistance should be able to go in there and get this. They get a trade on the right-hand side. There we go. Okay, so now it's going to watch Niagara for a little bit. So Niagara has been up here all game. Niagara has been on snipe. So it's like, you think this seems like they're out of play because they could paint like maybe a sliver of this left-hand zone and all they can really do is watch a flank from here. Wouldn't you want a Nautilus in a more powerful position than this? Well, they're actually able to control a lot of the area to the right of them right here by right peeking here. Like, look at, they're harassing someone on the right side of that zone there. They paint up a little bit, and then they just completely delete someone off of top mid. So they get a huge pick here. They delete someone who's trying to come and stop them from snipe, and now they've won themselves a numbers advantage solo. So this tiny little sliver of mid that you can look at is actually a really important sliver of mid for you to be able to look at. And the Nautilus just happens to be a really good weapon range-wise to be able to control that. And like, how do you push this thing? Do you push it through mid? It sees you first. Do you push it through left? It sees you first. And it has this insane height advantage over you. You have to like use the jet to like ray this thing out, or like you can't even throw bombs at it with anything else on the other team because they're all short-range weapons. How do you dislodge this Nautilus here? This is such a problem for them. They can't take control of top mid. They can't push any further past right zone, and they can't flank from right. This entire area is getting locked down by one player, and so the other members are able to just worry about everything else. And now, Niagara is in an even more advanced position. Now you can't even approach the left, or the right-hand side for AgoDono. You have to funnel through the middle. And so hopefully Resistance is going to be ready for that. Oh, nope, you can't go through the middle either. This is such insane skirmishing and slaying here from Niagara. They are drawing so much attention to the right-hand side. They're being such a pain in the butt. They're staggering AgoDono so hard from here. I thought that was so cool. All right, so they're doing a concerted push through the middle of the map, and again, just deleted from jail. Bombs start going over there. Niagara just drops down, and they ball her because it's a little bit unsafe, and they want to paint the zone back. And now Niagara is going to just move out of the way because they're like, okay, I have done my job here. They know I'm here. I'm going to be somewhere where they don't know that I am anymore. So Niagara finally gets picked off. Melon doing a great job solo there. They were marked, and now the other team does know where they are, and they're in a tricky position to fight back from. Might have to jump out or something. But even jumping out is a little scary because if fall-off shots start coming over the top, the other player doesn't need to like see them to be able to finish the splat. So just a tough position. And they also don't want to give up map position from there. They want to be able to hold that side so that Niagara can't take it. Great Ray win there from Ryukun. This is going to give them a little bit more pressure going in. They needed that pick. If this player gets over to the left-hand side, the Jet 100% loses this because they've got support from here that's going to push in, and then they got someone pushing them from the left, and the Jet is in range. They would have needed to back up if they didn't get that pick, but they do get it. Now the Booyah Bomb is coming out that they need to worry about here. And hey, it's Niagara again. A little bit cheeky there because they're not going to get away from that alive. But you can see just how much of a nuisance they are being on that side. With they've got the this really high KA right here, just from playing what seems like a useless position on the map. Oh. Majin manages to get out of there with their lives and, more importantly, their Ray. Nyagora with another pick with a triple. With a triple. Excuse me. And now they're going to be sharking on the far right-hand side. This is a better play, I think, on double zones maps because you have to split your attention a little bit more between the two zones. And you have to, you take a little bit longer to uncap them. On a single zone map, I feel like this just gives the other team the zone for free. But because it's going to take them a little bit, and because Haruto knows that they're all out in front of him except for this player, and this player's furthest back, I think this is a really good play. So now they're in behind the other team. The other team's like, great, I'm getting flanked. They've got just a complete encirclement there. Great play from Melon to take out Nyagora and break out of part of it. If you're encircled like that, the play is you over-focus one player so that you can break out on that side of the map and give yourself some space. So that you have somewhere to back up to. That's exactly what Melon manages to do. Haruto still being a nuisance over here. This is such a great place for a tri-slosher because you have so much cover. Like, the shooter has not managed to get a single shot on them until that moment, and then they just delete them. But that's, you can see kind of what the tri-slosher is trying to get done there. This is great play from AgoDono to flush this position out. So as soon as Haruto goes down, they put someone through on the right-hand side over here, and then they put someone in from behind it as well. And now Nyagoro's like, oh, I do not have as much space as I usually do from here. Haruto goes in for the trade on the tri-slosher, and Nyagora ends up going down to the splat bomb there. Splat bombs have this annoying property where they can kind of just hit around walls. So this looks like it's on the wall, right? Actually, it's peeking up over the top of the wall because the suction cup goes up a little higher. And so the explosion will go in a radius around, like, right here. And that's what ends up getting Nyagora here. So now it's an overtime push for AgoDono. They have control. They need to hold it. Resistance playing pretty patient. Nobody goes down to that early Ray. And Ryukun in a lot of trouble here. Not going to be able to paint. And not going to be able to apply a lot of pressure. Nyagora just dives on in, takes clicks out, and a baller on the opposite side zone is so huge. Even if the other team wasn't wiped, that baller is great for closing it out for some really quick zone capping when they need it. So they're able to take that game there. And was that it? I think that was it. Yeah, that is the final game of the tournament there. So now you know who wins. Haha. Spoilers. Okay. Well, I just wanted to showcase a little bit of that tournament. I can't go through and watch the whole thing with you guys. It is, 4.5 hours long, as you can see from the numbers below here. But I would encourage everybody to go and watch this tournament. This is a fantastic litmus test for where the meta game of Splatoon 2 is right now and where it presumably will be for the rest of its lifespan, because I don't foresee any patches to Splatoon coming out anytime soon. They're probably putting all of their dev resources into Splatoon 3 at this point. So this is the way that the game is played right here. It's not going to change that much between now and when Splatoon 3 comes out. These players are, always getting better, obviously, but this is great to study for, any of the weapons that you play. And if you don't play any of the weapons that were played here, consider picking them up. Consider, what do these weapons do that my weapon doesn't? and think about why these are the weapons that are being played instead of what else you might be trying. There's just so much to learn from this, and it's such a wealth of information. And it happened at like 4 a.m. on North American time, and so probably nobody saw it. So I wanted to highlight that so that other people go and watch this. I'm going to drop the link to this in the chat right now to exactly what I am watching currently. Not that. This. Here we go. So there it is, this Twitch link that I just sent. It's also on YouTube. But follow this creator, Zones Cup JP, because they also are responsible for the Area Cup, which is a very regular tournament that is mostly Japanese teams, but all of the top Japanese teams will attend Area Cup. And they attend it very regularly, so you can kind of see the meta developing. I don't remember if it's week by week or month by month, but it's very common. So absolutely be, checking those out as those come out as well. This is, one of the premier Splatoon tournaments, one of the premier Splatoon tournament organizers in the world. So that you should definitely be watching them if you're interested in getting into competitive play. That's about all that I had to say for those. Very, very cool video game, and it's awesome to be able to see it played at such a high level. So go and check this out, and I hope you enjoyed and got something out of my analysis today. I'm going to close the stream down now, though. Thanks, everybody, for watching.